Namaste. On the seventh day of Navratri, we worship Ma Kalratri, form of the goddesses Durga. The day 7 of Navratri is also known as Mahasaptami. In the Kalratri form, Ma Durga looks very fiery and appears in a dark complexion. She is mounted on an ass and has four hands, two of which carry a torch and sword, while the other two hands are shown in boon giving and protecting poses. Om Devi Kalaratrayi Namaha. Good morning, everyone. On the behalf of the Indology Foundation, Delhi, Sinhagat Technical Education Society, Pune, and SNTT Women's University, Mumbai, I, Vaishali Chavan, taking this opportunity to welcome our eminent guest speaker, Mrs. Anjana Devasthale, ma'am. She has done MSc Horticulture with distinction from MPKV Ravuri, practicing horticulture consultant for the past 22 years. Presently, horticulture consultant with Hindustan Construction Company. She has successfully completed projects with corporates, private companies, land developers, residential complexes, and schools. Corporate Philips Silverline Computers, NAN, Reality, Sthavan developers. Planned and implemented theme-based gardens, sustainable gardens, native trees, nakshatra one, medicinal and spice gardens, vegetable gardening, and organic farming. She is faculty for postgraduate diploma in gardening and horticulture at Advanced Study Center, Bedekar College, Thane. She is writing extensively on environment and horticulture. Her work has been published in Horticulture World, Lokasatta Maharashtra Times, Mumbai Tarun Bharat, Apla Paryavaran, etc. She had written a Reconor book for successful tree plantation. Experiencing of work with schools, created sensory gardens for special children at Snehalaya Thane. Productive sensory garden for Wings Autistic Children's School Thane. She has worked with rural Jila Parishad schools at village Chand Badalpur. Works extensively with Forest Department, WWF, Pugmarks, Paryavaran, Dakshata Manch for nature trails, training and workshops. She has awarded Mrs. Anjana Devasthale ma'am got scholarship from Junior Research Fellowship from Indian Council of Agriculture Research ICAR New Delhi and awarded Woman of Substance Award from Times of India, Thane, facilitated for her work in environment activities. Over to you, ma'am. Please bless us from your knowledge. Please.
Namaskar. Thank you for the very long, so privileged to be talking here, Ideology Foundation. So my topic basically is the Indian culture and traditions, and I'm going to talk about the conservation and sustainability in agriculture. So apart from this long introduction that I've got, I'm an organic farmer, and not just an organic farmer, I'm a natural farmer. I do natural farming by as taught by our guru, Padma Shri Subhash Parekar, who follows natural farming and who has taught a lot of farmers and inspired a lot of farmers to go back to the traditional way of farming by using cows source of all nutrition for the soil and treating soil herself as a mata. Okay, so basically, what happens is that when we look at the various when we look at agriculture, it has been around for our civilization has been around for 5,000 years, and it has sustained itself. Every time you see that the conservation and the sustainability, it was not the words that we were using like we use now, but it was a way of life for us. This is the seal from Mohenjo-daro, and you can see that man is this. He's not right in the center. Now we think in a very egocentric way, and we think that we are in the center of universe and we control the universe. But in this seal, if you see that we are just a part of the nature. There are animals, there are serpents, there are everything, and man is very in harmony living with them. So we have never harped on conservation as a word like we talk now, but it was always a way of life. So, like this slide says, that it's not a cause. It is not a glorified mission like we talk now of sustainability and conservation, but it's been a way of life for us. We've always lived with conservation imbibed in us, imbibed in a tradition, imbibed in a culture, even even without uttering the word of sustainability or uttering the word of conservation. So it has been a part and parcel of our life. Now, when we look at Devrais are the ancient forests which were protected because of some belief. So they did not have very big temples around Devrais, but there used to be a small temple which used to be the one Devata or one Devi or and Devrais are basically thing is that these millions of years old Devrais still exist and they are held together by only some beliefs that we always say that कुछ कोप हो जाएगा सब कुछ विपरीत हो जाएगा अगर हमने यहाँ का पेड़ तोड़ा. So in this Devrai there is no rule and regulation of the government, there is no force of the police or judiciary. It's just that the beliefs that this is to be protected for the god that resides here and it is protected. People do not pluck anything, they do not break the wood from there, or they do not even pick up things from the Devrai. Basically, these Devrais also protect some source of water. So, it is not just the biodiversity that is conserved, it is also the animals, the birds, the insects that live within the Devrai, and also the water which is conserved because of the Devrai, which percolates and which feeds the wells and which feeds the lakes and the rivers and everything. So these are basically, it's a complete ecosystem which is held together by belief and faith. Fortunately, there are a lot of these Devrais which are found all over India, maybe by different names. Of late, there are some instances where people have gone into the Devrai and made a very big temple, and then they are having utsavs. But still, if you see, more or less, the Devrais have remained as forests, or there are in Kerala, if you just one tree which is being protected, it could be a banyan tree or it could be a ficus family, which is a keystone species. Even one protected tree means it gives shelter to lakhs of other animals. Like it gives shelter to animals, it gives shelter and food to animals, birds, insects, and even replenishes the soil that is around it. So basically, this tradition of Devrai is one part of conservation and tradition that we are living with. If we see that our agricultural system has sustained a civilization for more than 5,000 years, and when we talk of we never call as Bhumi. Bhumi is a devi for us, and she's praised as Bhumata. Then she's worshipped as Bhu Devi. And so we are all Bhumi Putras. So it's basically, we don't consider soil as some dead substance. We always address soil as Mata, which is sustaining us. And that is how we treat and regard our soil. A soil is something that we enrich with various things. For anything that we want to start a project, first we do the Bhumi Pujan, where the Bhumi is the mother which is prayed at the beginning of things. Like even when it is the farming is done, first there is, for every sowing season there is like a first prayers are offered before you dig. The prayer is offered because you're going to hurt the soil. So that is how we revere the soil. It is always and it is, again, it's not a rule, or it's not something that is told. It is again a conservation culture or a tradition that we follow. These are all traditional things that we have just come into us from our ancestors, from our parents, from our grandparents. It's there's no rule. It's just what we've been following, and all this following, what we are following now, it has not come out of one day. Out of somebody has come. It's not come from the lab, but it has come out of so many years of cumulative knowledge that has been collected. So this knowledge has been collected over the years of practice, over the years of tradition, and this is how it has become a tradition. So these practices have become traditions which we've been following. Now, when we look at agriculture, we have because our country is mainly of agriculture. So till now we were saying that 70% of the people are engaged in agriculture in some way or the other. If we look at the festivals, even today, if we are all city dwellers and we are staying in the cities and we are not following the traditions and but as a profession, but we are actually celebrating all those. So when we celebrate Sankranti, celebrate Pongal, or we celebrate, these are all harvest festivals. And it is basically, the harvest has come and people are in a very happy mood. And that's why in Maharashtra, when Sankranti is there, we have the Sugad, which has the sugar cane, which has the carrot, which has the gram. All of them are prayed. Even so, like I said, that even though tradition and we are not following agriculture, but the tradition continues in spite of not being agriculturists per se. Yeah, and it is not just the fields and the produce that is sprayed, but there is a big tradition of animals, especially the farm animals that are paid. Like in Maharashtra, we have Pora. Okay, and then in Tamil Nadu, in Pongal, there is one called the Matta Pongal. One of the days of the celebration is Matta Pongal, where the cattle which were roaming all around have come back home, and they are prayed, they are worshipped. In the first day of Diwali, it is Subaras, where the cow and the calf are worshipped. So these are all traditions which we follow, and these are all things we have conserved, and the traditions which we are following, and they will keep on going. Even though all these festivals are commercialized, we say that they're commercialized, but the sentiment of conservation remains. So we don't lose the sentiment there. We could be spending a lot more, and we could be not following what the older systems were, but the tradition will continue, and that basically that tradition is of conservation and sustainability. Yeah. Now, what happens is that when we are embracing modern technology, we must keep in mind that the traditional system has stood the test of time. Now, what happens is a lot of people are questioning that the traditional form of agriculture is really good. So the people say that, people of my generation say that India, after post-independence, we were starved. We was a starved nation, and we were standing with a bowl and asking for help, international help. When America sent us some wheat, then they sent up some red corn, which and people would stand in front of the ration lines for years, for months, for days, waiting for something to fall in their plate. So if this is the condition, why am I talking about a traditional form of agriculture? If we had such a good form of agriculture, then why did this time come on us that we are waiting? So let me tell you one thing, that our form of agriculture was very good. We had the traditional farming practices. They were guided by the traditional farming calendar. And then we used to have a mixed cropping system where not just one grain, but some grains and pulses used to be planted together. Then there was a lot of intercropping. It was not just extensive land of only rice, or wheat. We had them mixed with pulses and rice, and then we had rotations. One crop used to be followed by another from different families. So if you are taking rice in one, then the next season would be something like a gram, that is chana, or it could be some, as in Kokan, it would be dal, or some legume. And the resources were optimized. People used to store the seeds and keep. They used to use the manures from the cow shed, and resources were optimum. So if it doesn't rain in one year, then they would which requires less water. So all these cumulative knowledge was in us. But in the colonial time, for commercial reasons, our farming system was destroyed. Because we had to feed the mills of Manchester, we started growing a lot of cotton. The farmers were forced to grow cotton. And in the farmers in North Bengal, they were forced to grow indigo. So the traditional systems of not just agriculture, but also of our water storage, of our making our own compost. They were all disturbed because of it. Then came the independence in the 60s, came the Green Revolution. So already our cropping system was disturbed. And then we started going through these periods of starvation. And then came the Green Revolution. So Green Revolution was a boon to us because till now that we didn't have crops, all of a sudden the new hybrid seeds promised, and they delivered so much. So we were like, our bowls were full, our granaries were overflowing, and we even reached a stage where we could start exporting grain. Somebody who was waiting for, begging for grains, now we came at a situation where we could start exporting. So basically, the few years were very good. The hybrid grains came in, then along with them, because there was hybrids are high input, high output. So input in the soil in the form of agricultural, fertilizers. Then with fertilizers, when there was too much of fertilizers, there was also uh, got into the mode of spraying pesticides. So this was a cycle that you put in a high input seed, then you put fertilizer, then you spray pesticides, then you water them copiously. So the whole cycle of high. It's like a graph in curve in economics. So first it gives you a good high input, high output, high input, output. And then at one stage it reaches a plateau, and from the plateau there is a downfall. So there was a downfall in terms of production. So farmers were pumping in fertilizers, chemicals, pesticides, high cost seeds, but they were not getting back what they were expecting, or they could not even recover the cost. And then the loans and debt written, and in Vidarbha, which is such a productive soil and which is such a productive land, we started witnessing farmer suicides. So it took some time, but then it started. Whereas in the same thing, I see that in my own area where my farmers, I see that there are farmers who are doing very well. And those farmers are basically the farmers who are following the traditional way of cultivation. Basically, it starts with the seed, where we have traditional systems of storing seed. And I must say that Padma Shri Rahibai Pofre, who is a lady in Akole district, she is actually conserving the seeds of the local vegetables. We call them the heritage seeds. Generally, what we get now are the hybrid seeds, which you cannot store for the next season because you don't know what the outcome of the next seed will be. So So there are people like Padma Shri Rahi Pai Portrait who are traditional farmers who store the seeds and seeds. So they have a biodiverse seed population. So if it rains um, too much, then they know which seeds to put. And when they're putting these kind of seeds, they're cross-pollinating and we are getting good varieties. And these varieties are the ones which we can store and which are adapted to the local climate. It's not like, one system for all. So it's very niche to that particular geographical location and things like that. So similarly, there are other traditions also. The lunar calendar for sowing, following the lunar calendar for the harvest. No, because these things are basically, how you get the best output and how that output gets a better shelf life. So, everything, like everything. When is the best time to cut down a crop? When is the best time to cut down a tree? Or when is the best time to harvest medicinal herbs? These have some traditions and cultures. Fortunately, now the agriculture again is coming to a fix, and we do not know what's going wrong, and too many pesticides. We are becoming aware. Our traditional ecological knowledge is coming back to our help, and because this has been developed by long-term interactions with the local ecosystem. Now people are thinking of going back and reviving those systems and going back to the roots, where they learn and unlearn from and relearn, So we are unlearning, learning and relearning from our traditional systems. It's not that, we should totally be disbanding technology because we have very scarce land resources now. The land is becoming less. The agricultural practices, we should also be following the traditional practices, because the traditional practices were always talking about the bhumata, which is the live soil. And when your soil is live and you use the modern technology with it, then the benefits will be more. Yeah. So I follow Padma Shri Subhash Parekar's Guruji's natural farming movement, and here basically he says that the farmer should not it should be self-sufficient. It should be not be dependent on the shops which sell fertilizers or the companies which sell pesticides or everything. Everything is within the field. Everything is within the farm. So the basic four pillars of Subhash Parekar's natural farming movement are Jivamrut, Bijamrut, Mulch, and Vapsa. And now Jivamrut basically is it's a concoction of goma, of cow dung of desi gai, then gomutra, there's a cow urine, then the basin and jaggery, and a handful of good soil from the farm. Now, basically, all of these, the cow dung is a source of microbes, all the microbes that are good for the soil and the beneficial microbes. Cow urine is again, it contains a lot of amino acids and it contains some steroids from the cow's stomach, and it also is a source of nitrogen. Basin is a source of nitrogen for the microbes, and gur, that is a gur, or is a sweet source of which gives the energy. So they basically, basin and jaggery give energy and application of the microorganisms. So this concoction is sprayed, diluted and sprayed to the plants. It is added to the soil. So when this is done, it enhances the soil. The modern agriculture says that we have to feed the plant. But the traditional form of agriculture or the natural farming says that the soil has to be enriched, that it can support the plants, can give a good harvest. Bijam basically is treatment to the seeds. So even when the seeds sow, they get a environment in which they can grow and they can ward off all the harmful fungus that comes around us, or the harmful bacteria or harmful microorganisms which would actually be destroying it or attacking it. Mulch is basically use of the farm waste, what we call as a waste, is very rich in organic carbon. That achavan, or the mulch, is put on the farm surface. It's spread on the plant roots, plants. It acts in two ways. One is that it stops the evaporation of water. So the soil doesn't become very hard because of losing moisture, and it gives shade to the microbes which are in the soil. It, and as it decomposes, it adds to the organic carbon, and it adds to the organic matter in the soil. The soil is always replenished by this mulch, apart from protecting the soil from erosion and from heating up. And upside is one of the most important condition of the soil. It basically is an optimum soil moisture and soil air. So, in school we learned that the plants the leaves take in carbon dioxide, but we didn't learn the line that the roots also require oxygen to breathe. So this is how the system of agriculture works, taking into all the considerations for the soil moisture, uh, soil air, the soil microbes, and this is how the system is working. And when we grow the system by the system, it is not just one crop of extensive agriculture or just one plant, but it is a lot of plants together. So every field would be taking in not just the main crop, but along with the main crop, there will be some secondary crops also, which will be side by side. So when the farmer starts this practice of farming, the traditional practice of farming, which again it has crop rotation, then crop intercrops, then a layered kind of a farming. That his land use is optimized. So from one piece of land, which he was just going to get one crop, he will be getting multiple crops, and all the multiple crops will be benefiting each other as they grow. Okay, and also the risk by chance, if one of the crop is destroyed, then the risk of the farmer is reduced because he has the other crops to hold upon. That is how it is done. And this traditional system of agriculture is followed. The food chain in nature, it remains, there are some crops which are used as trap crops, so they will not allow the insects to go to the main crop. Then along with that, when the insects attack, there are a lot of naturally made pesticides which are made on the farm itself. They could be the using the 10 different roots of plants. Then there is the Agni Astra. And then there are so many, like when you go to different areas, you can find different pesticides that are formulated right in the farm or right in the house of the farmer by using very simple things like chilies and garlics, or leaves of papaya, tomato, or gokru, or so it's basically using the biodiversity around the farm. So when the farmers know that they are going to be using, then once they start realizing the importance of the biodiversity, that a particular leaf is used as a pesticide against some insect, or a particular leaf, like we know a few like neem leaves, but there are so many other leaves that we can use. There is like dhotra, there is rui, all these leaves which we were offering to the god till now, we remember those leaves, we take them and we make concoction, or and then use it for spraying the plants as an insecticide. Sometimes it can be a simple thing like sour buttermilk, ambatak, chas, khatta chas. Even that becomes a pesticide and good fungicide and a good. It also gives. It's also again. It gives amino acids because it contains amino acids that liberate nitrogen, and that also helps the plant grow. So it is basically going back to the traditions, going back to the cultural significance of certain plants and certain systems, that we enhance the sustainability and the of the land, and we again start getting back the yield that was due from that land. So it is basically to treat the land as a mata, and the mata feeds you. So that is the very simple conservation systems that we've been followed. So, like I said before, we need to not to forget, we can't take everything, because of course the population has become tenfolds now. But along with the modern techniques, we must be taking help of these olden techniques also. We'll again 15,000 years of civilization. So we have so many more thousands of years to go. And this is the way we will be sustained. Thank you so much. Misha?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes. हो गया ना?
Am I audible clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Anjana Devasthale, ma'am, for such an informative speech. Great speech, ma'am. It is pleased us that we have 5,000 years of agricultural practice. Elaboration on Devrai will definitely help us. Concept of earth is celebrated as Bhumi, praised as Bhumata, worshipped as Bhudevi, and we are Bhumiputra. Shows India's great heritage. Your insights on agriculture is not just a profession, it's a tradition culture is great. Your thought, even as we embrace modern technology for increasing production, we must keep in mind traditional system has stood the test of time. Subhash Pal natural system of farming is useful. Our traditional agriculture system is destroyed by British. To know about the importance of Vapsa, so simple yet essential, will help to farmer. We should thanks to our farmer who feeds us. Thanks for your outstanding lecture. Thanks you to assist us to know about the right agriculture with your fine picture. I announce this session is end now.